Hi, my name's Lee Jasper. This is Brixton, London, and you're watching Lee Jasper Drive Time.
Welcome to this week's Drive Time on what is a very dreary Saturday morning here in London. So a big shout out to all of you who are beginning to tune in and stay with us as a regular show. As you know, Lee Jasper Drive Time is news that you can use. We aim and pride ourselves on giving you the kind of news information that can lead to empowerment. We don't want paralysis of analysis. We want you to be able to feel as though you can contribute to the show, and our supporters out there do post websites and information, and it's the same today. I'm asking you to be the invaluable contributors, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 1000th panelists on the show, though not on screen, making your contribution by giving us information that people can use. So I'll be delighted to that. As you know, we always have difficulty getting our news channel out simply because my name's Lee Jasper and the powers that be always suppress what we're seeking to do. So every week I ask you if you could share, start a watch party, get your friends and colleagues and neighbours to realise the show is live on air, so that we can expand the extent to which we can bring you this key and very important community information. So do be available to comment and ask your questions of the panelists. Do like, share, and promote the page as we bring you this key information on yet another Drive Time. This is the 8th, can you believe it? 8 weeks. We've been doing this, and if you look back on the previous shows, you'll see everything from domestic violence to mental health to COVID. And last week we did a great stop and search video, a Zoom with Black Socks, where we had Katrina French and the director Naima Eastwood from Drugs Release, and Jane Slater from Transform. And further to that, we had 3 young people who'd been stopped and searched, and they gave powerful witness testimony. So look up that on the Black Socks Facebook page, if you will. And you can always get the previous episodes on this show by simply hashtag Lee Jasper Drive Time, and they should all come up, and you can dip in and out to get the information you need. Well, this morning we're focusing on COVID-19 and the millions, hundreds of millions of pounds that the government trumpets as being available in terms of the emergency response money. And we all know that with businesses closing down and the lockdown in full effect, the economic impact on us has been absolutely dramatic. We've all seen a massive fall in the GDP in the United Kingdom, and we've all seen the massive rise. Almost 2 million people have made universal credit application schemes. So, and we've seen the dramatic impact on loss of life and trauma that we see out there in our communities. And so when you begin to assess the impact of the economic impact of COVID-19, you know that our community, the African and Caribbean community, and let me say that's what I'm talking about. I'm a proud international African. I make no apologies. I'm talking about the African and Caribbean communities. I ain't in no BAME umbrella, Bonim BAME today on the Lee Jasper Drive Time. We're talking about our own community. Our community already had criminally high levels of unemployment. And as a consequence of 10 years of austerity, we've seen Black women's unemployment rise incredibly. Now that has led to an explosion in people who are starting their own startup businesses, which I think is incredibly important. But COVID has come along and put a huge big damper on economic activity. So if we're to see an increase on the already extraordinary high levels of Black unemployment, then this doesn't bode well for our communities. And yes, we can get some emergency COVID money. But on this program, we're going to point you where that money is available and how you can access it. But in the second half of the program, we're going to look to discuss the black economy, how we can support ourselves. Because as you know, the sponsors of my program are Black Socks and Section 106. And Black Socks as a social movement is built on the principle that we have self-sufficiency, that we find ourselves funding our own initiatives, that we stand on our own 2 feet. Yes, we access the tax dollar when we can, but we don't make that the sole objective and source of our economic mainstay activity. So that'll be the program in the latter half of the show, where we'll be joined by a number of incredible guests. But the impact of COVID-19 on the black businesses that we've seen is going to be incredible. We're largely small businesses, micro businesses in many examples, and usually employing no more than 3, 4, maybe no more than 5 people within our businesses. And the lockdown has meant that those businesses have felt enormous economic pressure. We'll be exploring what kind of business support is available to them in this program. But what we've got to ensure us, and I suppose the challenge for this program, for me and for you and us as a wider community, is if Marcus Garvey was right, and I dare say he was, that black people never know themselves until they're back against the wall. Well, not only is our back against the wall where black businesses are concerned, but the cement is in our spinal fluid. And if we don't start to focus on how we can assist and develop and protect and support black businesses, post this COVID, there'll be very fewer black businesses than there were at the start of it. And given the economic consequences of that for our community, I don't think that that is a situation that we can bear to stand. We don't want to be pushed into that economic abyss, and therefore we have to think, how can we access emergency money? How can we encourage our community to support us? And of course, you've seen during this whole COVID situation and the aftermath of the death of George Floyd and the re-emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement, the blackout campaign. And we've seen big businesses saying, you know, we've got to acknowledge our roles in slavery, Bank of England, Lloyd's Bank, the brewery, Green King, started from a plantation. All of these big businesses are talking about reparation. What's the relationship between them making these commitments to fund the African and Caribbean community? And let's be clear, this is money due from the exploitation of the enslavement of Africans. So it's not Bain money, it's black money. Make no apologies for saying that. I think it's worth saying. So if we're going to get some reparations money, I best we might use that in order to fund, initiate, pump prime, restore, or provide the incubation space for the explosion of black businesses we're going to need, given the incredible levels of unemployment we are likely to see, particularly amongst our young people, as we emerge out of this COVID crisis. You're watching Lee Jasper's Drive Time. Say good morning to you all. Say good morning there on the live chat we see. If you can share with your friends just now and let them know that we are live on the program, I'll be deeply appreciated, as I always am. And on this morning's Drive Time, we've got an incredible range of guests. The program's in largely 2 parts. We're going to start off with one of my guests who you will know well. Her name is Patricia Lamore. She's in lovely pink and future coordination today, looking every bit the Hollywood star. And Patricia Lamore, MBE, is the director and chief executive and principal of Aspire Education Group. Many of you have seen her on the program before, and I will never tire of having her. Such is her expertise on the issues that we face. Good morning, Patricia. We need to unmute you, Patricia.
I was coughing before, that's why I'd muted myself. Okay, I'll start again. I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, everybody who's tuned in at this on this lovely grey day. I think sun might be coming, so that will be good. Yes, I think this webinar is extremely.
Bring in Adrian first before you launch off, my dear.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And our second guest this morning is Adrian Bettop. He's the Director of Procurement and Innovation and Strategy. And for the last 20 years, he's been leading procurement projects and departments right across the UK. Whilst personally, that means this man has signed off in excess of £1 billion of contracts to businesses across the public and private. Consultancy specializes in helping business navigate procurement and, more importantly, help to identify where the contracts are and how to win contracts. Now, his expertise is absolutely kind of technical, master your brief, expert contribution we love here on Drive Time. We despise the traumatic porn of the paralysis of analysis with no real direction. So, Adrian, it's wonderful to have you with us this morning. Are you well?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I am very well. Thank you for having me. It's a real privilege to be here to speak with everybody. I'm keen to get involved in this conversation. Lots of interesting things happening across this world. So, but we are in a good place. I think we can really move forward.
Well, you know, the Chinese characters for crisis are also the same as opportunity. And we find in all world crises of whatever depth and scale that there are always those who look past the crisis to opportunity. And that's what we're seeking to do here with the program this morning. So again, if you can share the program, listeners out there on YouTube and Facebook, just let everybody know we're here. Give us a watch party. Say hello to Adrian and Patricia for us on screen. We'll get right into the subject. So the government has now announced a multiplicity of schemes. We are now living in a communist era where people have been paid to stay at home, and we are now following the economics of Cuba from a Tory party, the like of which we have never seen. And although Jeremy Corbyn was castigated for being far too left-wing, Corbyn has delivered that which Jeremy Corbyn could not. And we are now seeing state aid on a level that we have never seen before. We're interested in how that impacts upon the Black community organisations, charities, community sector, individuals, as well as businesses. So let's dive right in. Patricia, I wonder if I could ask you to start to give us your overview of the level of state aid and all that is available.
Yeah. Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Adrian. The two of us will be working on this together. Basically, I had to smile when you're talking about the Cuban approach. In fact, let's remember why all this money is there. It's not someone else's money, it's your money. The government money is public money that we have all contributed in taxes. So in other words, money that we have given is now being given back to us. That's what it is. And let's not be under any illusions. It's about staving off massive unemployment and business collapse induced by the lockdown that we've had, which has been unprecedented, not only in this country, but the world wide over. We know that major businesses were on the verge of collapse, airlines, tourism, etc., hospitality, creative industries, etc. So this government had to do something very, very serious in order to stave off this collapse. The other thing is, of course, that let me just introduce myself and what we've been doing and how this follows up, because in the next few minutes that we have, it's not going to be enough time to do what we want to do to give you the real information. So myself and Adrian will be following up with a seminar, a webinar, actually a two-part webinar, which you can sign up for in Eventbrite. and I hope that Theo will be putting the details underneath as I'm speaking. And that is, I will say it though, it's a bit.ly/money access. So bit.ly/money access -aspire. If Adrian and could also say that when he speaks, and if Theo could put that up. But basically, we need time to speak with our Black-led organizations, be they businesses or charities, to make sure that they get access to the money. I have been on 3 webinars in the last 3 weeks to do with COVID money. The first one, I was told only 2 hours before it started. And what I did, we screenshotted all the information for that. So we will make that available to everybody who signs up to our webinar for free. The next 2 webinars that I attended was hosted by the All Parliamentary Group on BAME, the lame word, businesses. And that was hosted by Diana Crouch, who is the secretary to that All Parliamentary Group. There was information shared there. And then the third one I was on, which was organised by a dear friend and colleague that Lee knows as well, Yvonne Thompson, the veteran businesswoman, our first Black woman millionaire in this country, founder of Choice FM. She held a very interesting seminar purposed at Black businesses to access this COVID money. And there I heard a minister, I'll find his name in a moment, who talked about 23 billion being made available under this government, under the various different schemes to help businesses, to help charities. And as I said, remember, we're at an unprecedented time locally and globally to stave off business collapse and mass unemployment. And that's why your money is basically being given back to you. Now, for instance, in terms of COVID-19 emergency funds, if you go on to the government, I'd wanted to share a slide here, which unfortunately it doesn't seem it's going to share. So I will tell the information and also make sure all these slides are available for those who sign up to our webinar. Basically, if you go on to the government website and look under COVID-19 support, the first thing is a business eligibility checker. So you put in your information, it's very straightforward, they're not tracking anything at that time, but you then put in whether you're a business, you're based in the UK, how long you've been going for, how many employees. I mean, in terms of employees, there's one which says 0 to 249, so most of you will tick that one. I don't think many people listening in will have more than 249 employers, and if you do, fantastic. But anyway, so there will be a business eligibility checker, and you put in information about whether you run a PAYE scheme, whether you are a director of a business. And usually, if you are a director of a business, you're not classed as self-employed as such. So, but anyway, so you go through all those different questions. It takes about 2-3 minutes. And then when you hit the last button, it will then come up with a list of all the different things that you may be eligible for. One, whether you are self-employed, there is a self-employed scheme, which you may be eligible for. Secondly, there is obviously if you need to furlough staff. There's been a lot of talk about the furloughing scheme and new ways of how it's going to be delivered will be coming in from 1st of August. But still, this is something where the government can pay up to 80% of your staff if you staff pay if you have to lay them off during furlough during this time because money hasn't been coming in. So that's an important avenue of funding for businesses and also charities. It also extends to them. Thirdly, there's also the Coronavirus Interruption Business Loan Scheme, This is up to £5 million. It's quite involved. You obviously, it's not you just hit a button and they're just going to give you the money. It's not that straightforward. You have to present a case, whether, why it is your business has been interrupted by COVID. You've had to shut, you haven't had to have customers, you couldn't do face-to-face, etc. But you also have to do due diligence in terms of presenting a viable loan proposal. And also they will see that you weren't in financial difficulty as of December 2019. So in other words, 3 months before the COVID lockdown, end of March, before it hit. So they will do due diligence there. It's for small business and large businesses. So that is the COVID interruption business loan scheme. And then one of the latest ones, which is probably the easiest one to access, is the bounce back loan. In fact, this was introduced because many businesses were not able to meet the criteria for the other one, unless you were very large and you had lots of reserves before, and all the technical capability to deal with this. So the bounce back loan is one of the easiest, and you can get between £2,000 and £50,000. Most banks are running it. In some cases, even if you do not have a bank account with that bank, there are some ways around this. Or if you as a business, and this is where many of our communities may fall down here, when you start running your business, you may have only run it only through your personal account. And therefore, the separation between business finance and your personal finance is not that clear. And this is where many of our business will run into problems in the sense that we cannot separate the two. So if you haven't done one before, it is time to open a business bank account. And so through this, this 2,000 to 50,000 loan is dependent on your turnover for the last year. So from January 18 to December 19. So for the last full, not financial year, but a year. And so you can get up to 20% of whatever your turnover of your business was then. So if you had a £200,000 turnover, you can access up to £50,000 as a bounce back loan. And as I said, this is probably one of the easiest to get. When I was on the webinar with the minister who talked about 23 billion with Yvonne Thompson, I could see on the comments down the side that some businesses were saying, you say it's easy, but we haven't got it. And the minister was undertaking to look personally into this, so we must keep up the pressure in terms of that. I'm going to try and find his name so that you can remember.
Yeah, can I just say about that?
Yeah.
The feedback from lots of black businesses is they just can't access these funds. They're finding it incredibly complicated. And I suppose if you're a small business and you're front facing with your customers, you're dealing with the bureaucracy of your business, to then go onto a government website and manage that can be a bit of a challenge.
Overwhelming. Exactly, it is.
Is that Nadeem Zawawi is his name, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Yes, 25%. Yes, thank you very much. It is 25%, a quarter of your turnover. And so the information that I got from that seminar, I will also make available. Adrian and I. And in terms of what you're saying, Lee, that is absolutely right. Businesses are struggling. Our backs are against the wall, and it is overwhelming. To get on tender, to get on supply chains, etc. And that's why myself and Adrian, and I'll hand over to Adrian now, that's why we're following up with 3 webinars on 10th of July and 17th of July to actually talk businesses and individuals through and give checklists and advice how they can access this money. So if I perhaps stop there and hand over to Adrian.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat. Exactly as Pat was saying, have an opportunity here to set ourselves up so that we can be best placed for the future. I know that there's a crisis, as Lee said earlier. You know, we've got a crisis happening at the moment, but there is also opportunity. Patricia's been giving us a lot of information about some of the grant funding that's available. There are loans that are available for businesses. The other side that I come from is I come from a procurement side. And if you can imagine the amount of money that the government spends on public spending, this is still going to be happening. All while this crisis is happening, money is still being spent. I'm working in the procurement industry at the moment, and I'm still placing contracts. I'm still awarding contracts, I'm still awarding money, and that's going to be happening, and that's going to turn up. And us as business people, we need to be best placed to win these contracts, to go forward and make sure that our businesses are still in that line and not be as distracted with everything that's happening in the world, while there are a number of businesses which are still out there doing their daily job. We have an opportunity to make sure that we are best placed. And what we're going to do on this webinar is help you understand how to win these government contracts, how to win NHS contracts, how to be set up so that you will be able to attract this money to yourselves. As was said, this is government spending, this is private sector spending. There are a number of businesses which are thriving under this situation. As you can understand, there are lots of businesses which have instantly had to digitally transform as a result of COVID. They've had to put their businesses online. They've had to interact with their companies and their customers online more so than they did before. And those people that are agile, those businesses that are agile and understand the time and season, those are the companies which are going to be successful in this environment. If you look at how agile, you've got ShareStream, you've got Zoom, you've got all of these online platforms which were best placed for such a time as this. And you can see how well they have performed under this crisis. There are a number of businesses which are, and sectors which are performing very well, whilst other ones are turning down. And it's good for us to understand how this happens, what they are doing, why they are doing it. And more importantly, as we've been talking about here, when we look at the diversity of these businesses, there are a number of things that we can do as a diverse population to make sure that we're still in that queue. And I'm very, very keen to interact. Both Patricia and myself are very, very keen to interact with you, help you to develop this type of thinking and strategy that goes ahead with that. I think it's very, very interesting. I'm currently, as I said, I'm doing procurement. I am head of procurement for a couple of NHS trusts in London. So as you can imagine, NHS are dealing with the COVID crisis, and yet we have to award contracts. We have to deliver services all underneath this. So if you can imagine, there are businesses that I have to be awarding contracts and pieces of work to, and those are the ones that you need to be involved with. If you're a small business, or if you're a large business and you can do it yourself, you're the ones that need to be contracted with. But there are ways, there are strategies that you can make sure that you are involved with what's happening. Procurement, basically everything that you can imagine goes through procurement at some time. It's you're either going to get money granted to you as a business, or you can win business. And for us to be successful businesses that go into the future, we are the ones that have to be consistently winning business, delivering excellent services and works, which we can do. And we're here to help you to do that. So please make sure that you register for the webinar, where we're going to be giving away lots of free information, lots of strategy, lots of understanding about the landscape that's out there. There's opportunity here. We need to wake up. We need to get ourselves together, get ourselves organized, and we can do this. We can deliver.
Well, I think that's incredibly important information. Don't forget, Adrian has given away over £1 billion in public sector contract. I mean,
Right.
basically, we don't want grants. We don't want to be a grant-aided community.
Right.
We want to be a business-focused community, so we can support our own institutions, our own social solutions to our problems, and raise up and fund those things which we care about, man. So I'd like to say a big shout out to a good friend of mine. I haven't seen her for ages. She's been ignoring me. And I'm going to tell her off when I say it. That Yvonne Thompson. Can't find her anywhere, CBE. But you know, Yvonne Thompson has been at the leading edge of these debates around black business developments for even before it was fashionable, and certainly long before I came to my attention. So I'm delighted that she's online watching us today. And I'm going to get you on this show, Yvonne, if it kills me. So prepare to be hunted down. But it's very important that we get our people focused. The solution for us now, in terms of this economic crisis, in terms of rising unemployment, is to come together as small micro businesses, maybe form larger consortiums, working with each other, trusting with each other, so we can raise the bar and get access to some of those contracts that micro businesses might be too small to compete with, but 4 or 5 businesses could adequately pull that together. So these are incredibly opportunistic times for people who've got the vision to make the move.
Can I say a few words there? I mean, for instance, Aspire through Black Sox is a strategic partner for Black Men for Change, which is one of the first, if the only, pan-London Black organisation for men. And precisely what you're saying, smaller organisations are brought together in trust to build a consortium to access larger pots of money. And it's that work, particularly that's been done brilliantly by Vivar Moon, our founder of Black Sox. It takes time, but this is the time. We're not going to be able to access. If you're a small business with a turnover of under 50 grand, 20 grand, you're not going to be able to access bigger contracts. But when you're working together with 4, 5 or 6, and you have an ethical partnership leading, because we also know that there are white organizations, white-led organizations, who are seeking black partners, but mainly for black cladding. They're just using them on the outside to show, oh yes, we're reaching the community, but they're taking most of the money. That's not the type of consortia that we're looking for, particularly at this time. You know, many of our organizations are reaching people that others aren't reaching or don't want to reach, are delivering services and getting impact and results that other people can only dream of. We are doing excellent work, but it's not being recognized, it's not being funded sufficiently. So, you know, we're about doing the due diligence, getting all the policies, procedures, you know, entering the information on supply tender portals, doing the pre-qualified PQQs. I mean, I remember 10 years ago when I first saw a PQQ, I was running for the hills. Right. But now I know how they're done, and it's the only way. If you're not on the supplier portals for London, we're billions. I mean, one of our slides,
you need to tell them what PQQ is.
A pre-qualifying questionnaire. So in order, before you can tender, it's like the first hurdle you have to jump over.
That's right.
In order to be considered kosher, okay, yeah? Okay. So basically, it's talking people through that, what they need to do to put in place, what things they need to have, you know, business continuity plans, risk assessments, health and safety, etc. All these things, which are standard business. But unfortunately, this country, we used to have, back in the day, I'm sure you remember, Lee, and I know Yvonne definitely remembers, we used to have in every borough, you know, business support centres where you could walk in and get all this kind of, it's gone. All of that is gone.
Yeah.
And this is why many of our businesses are struggling, because there is a lot of information, a lot of government information to get your head around. And we need the time, the support and the help. So some of this funding that's coming up, it needs to be infrastructural funding to help Black-led businesses and charities access the money. The charity sector, someone I see is asking questions. There is, for instance, I mean, if you're talking about race disparity in business, it's worse in the charity sector. It's worse. In terms of, there are very few Black-led charities. I know there's an organisation called Your Charity So White that has been looking at the racial disparity in the whole charity sector and accessing the funds. So there are, charity banks, there are government, there is information to access and repurpose funds, and we will also make that available on our webinar. We don't have time today to go into all of that, but many charities, when they set themselves up, they've also set themselves up as a company limited by guarantee. So therefore, as a company limited, you can trade, and therefore you also can access some of these coronavirus interruption business loan schemes as well. But the issue with this, they put all this money out there, and when they're gone, it's over.
Yeah. Can I comment as well?
So we've got to get ourselves together to get that. But more importantly, as Adrian is talking about, getting ourselves into the supply chain of regular business.
Okay.
That's what they've done in America.
Okay.
And need to do here.
Once you've done the PQQ and the SQ, you're in the game. So the person wants to get that done, Adrian.
Yeah, let me comment on that. There's a couple of things I want to pick up on. It's very, very interesting that when you look at the supply chain, it isn't as diverse as we would like it to be. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, we are not stepping up to the plate and investing in time to understand the supply chain and organizing our community and our companies to do so. So, for example, as Patricia was saying, have you applied for any PQQs? Have you applied for any tenders? Do you know what it's about? Have you ever done that before? I'm the person that sits the other side of the desk. I put these together. I evaluate these. I get the teams that coordinate that, award these contracts. And there isn't a person sitting behind the desk that's saying, oh, no, this is this type of business. I'm not going to have one of these. We, as people from the African diaspora, people of Black businesses, we need to step up and start applying. There are businesses which are doing this on a consistent basis. When I was saying, laughing with Pat before yesterday, I was involved in a number of contract awards across the City of London. One set of contract was over £800 million worth of contracts. And that involved me interviewing, creating all the tender packs, getting all the evaluation panels together, interviewing a number of businesses, over 80 or 90 businesses. And it's interesting, when I saw the demography of the people that came in to present to myself and a panel, I can say to Pat, well, there was a handful, let's just say there was maybe 7 or 8 people of any color that came into that boardroom, and that included myself. So it's very, very interesting that people aren't stepping. And I'll be honest, some people that I saw of color were in somebody's company brochure. They weren't sitting in the boardroom in front of me. But we have businesses that can deliver excellence. We have businesses that can deliver amazing works, innovation, strategy, where we're not stepping up and we're not applying even to get into the game. You can't win the race if you don't enter the game. And
you got to have skin in the game. You got to have skin in the game, and you got to have the vision.
Exactly right.
I think that have more people access to kind of webinars that you guys are going to be putting on. That the work that Yvonne Thompson has done, they'd be well prepared for this particular crisis. Actually, had they taken advantage of that. But nevertheless, there is still an opportunity. Forget, putting aside all the emergency grants and so on and so forth, the procurement contract value of this government's public sector spend is billions.
It is.
The Caribbean community used to get 1%.
Absolutely right.
To that procurement spend.
Absolutely right.
Eradicate poverty in our community overnight. And what we need, of course, is the vision from business leaders to stop competing with each other and start cooperating with each other. He was being very diplomatic, guy Adrian, when he said, there was only so many people of color. What he was basically saying is there was virtually no Black people in that room. There were people of color, but there were none from the African, or very few from the African and Caribbean communities. And yes, part of the expertise that you're going to be offering is how to access some of this emergency money. But I would say to people, more important, more sustainable in the longer term is to start thinking is, how can I join that business? How can I work with other businesses in a...
Absolutely right. Please, yeah. I'd love to
engage with each other. Adrian?
Yeah, I'd love to comment on that. I think it's very important that we understand the power of collaboration. I think culturally, we have been set up to run businesses. And if you look at the Bell reports, lots of different reports that look at different sets of businesses that are set up, especially for Black businesses, we typically have micro businesses, small businesses, or we operate in a way where we have our business on our own and we don't collaborate. When the strength in collaboration, just even on a very basic level, if you know, say for example, you had a small hairdressers, I am sure that there are other hairdressers that you know that are doing exactly the same thing. If 10 of you joined up together and said, you know what, let's buy our products together, you would get your products at a much better rate. If all of you are going to get office space, why don't you join together and you can get your office space at a much better rate? If I walked into a business, a car showroom, and I said, I'm going to buy one car, I'll get one rate. If I went into a car showroom and there was 100 of us together and we were going to buy 100 cars, what would be the difference there? What would they put on the table? Same thing with banking. You know, we could bank together. We can buy services and goods together, and that adds to the strength of a company and of a consortia. And when also when we're awarding contracts in the government, we do look for consortia because there are businesses that have strengths together, which makes them much stronger than them on their own. When you, as Patricia was saying, you know, when you look at how your turnover looks, how your delivery, your reach, there are so many things that we can do together if we start to trust each other, network together, and the strength that comes from that is amazing. I know Patricia was saying that, you know, when she sees some of the boards, a lot of people from other different cultures are representing a consortia of people as opposed to just themselves on their own.
Yeah, can I just say that? I mean, for instance, on the webinars that I attended, the one with the BAME, the first 5 or 6 speakers from our community, from the African and Caribbean community, were all single, individual, small businesses. And then when it turned to the Asian community, they were representing consortia. They were representing groups. And that's to do with how they do business together.
That's correct.
I'm not knocking it at all. I think we should emulate it. And I see Yvonne is actually putting up a point. Do we need a Black commerce organization? A Black business commerce organization?
Sure.
Because in fact, also when I was on the BAME webinar, the first thing that the questions were coming up, African and Caribbean business owners were saying, our needs are different to our Asian brothers and sisters. They are. Because also, we haven't even talked about Sharia compliant loans. Because within the Muslim community, Sharia compliant loans, when you take a loan from to Sharia compliant, it's not supposed to have interest. That is something that blows our minds completely for the Christian community. So there are Sharia compliant loans that Muslim businesses are also able to access, which do not attract interest. And yet those banks make money, so they make it other ways. So, but definitely, I think this whole COVID and also what's happening with George Floyd has heightened our sense of community. And this needs to be translated into economics in terms of how we do business going forward, which is why, you know, I went on those things, sharing the information, now coming together to give the extra support, because that's what is needed, to give the extra support to the individuals and demand collectively that we have infrastructural support to take our things forward. You cannot expect to have been kept us down and kept us off of all these supply chains, and suddenly all these things open. We're supposed to just be able to jump and skip and get this money. We can deliver the product. We can do the due diligence. We can provide all these things. We just need help and infrastructure support and advocacy on our terms.
Well, that help has got to come from the community itself, in my views. You can only rely on, in a sustainable way, on our own community to work together. And if we're working together, then I think we overcome any obstacle that's put before us. Right. And so I think that the importance of making sure that our businesses together. Look, let's break it down. We need, as an African and Caribbean community, and I'm using those terms specifically, because the African community is an advance of us in relation to business development, and the Caribbean community needs to join the African community in making these strategic partnerships. Sometimes we have the political access and they have the capital, and the coming together can make real sweet business music. But we need to break down the barriers that exist between us. And let's face it, that's difficult, because in a country like Britain, this is not like America, where there's 450 years of an African-American community, all speaking the same language with the traditions. Ours is the international African diaspora. You have Africans from Somalia, Nigeria, Ghana, Caribbean, all over. And therefore, sometimes people want to stay in their own distinct ethnic groups. In these times, at this point, the crisis and the challenge we find, that is a recipe for disaster. We've got to have this cross-business, cross-pollination, fertilization between Africans and Caribbeans of all different islands and all different African continents, and work together to try and access some of these contracts. This will be the determination of whether or not we can meet the challenge that is facing our young people. I'm going to bring in, if I may, the rest of our guests. Unless I'm advised by the studio they're not there, in which case I can't bring them in and we'll continue. But I do think...
I'd like to add something there, Lee, that point that you were making, to follow up, if that's possible. Right. Precisely what you're saying. I mean, our Black Sox Global Black Community Update that we held a few weeks that you and Viv hosted with Reverend Al Sharpton, people from Brazil, showed, that unity and our links with Africa and the diaspora is absolutely key to come out of what we are finding ourselves in. And particularly, remember, we're post-Brexit now. And there was nothing ever common about the Commonwealth. So, Britain is looking for links with Africa and the Caribbean in terms of trade and so therefore we who have those links, we need to do that. And we've been doing that. For instance, in Aspire, we have been doing, and you've been part of it, Lee, education for wealth conversations to strengthen the links between the diaspora and Africa, actually looking at how we can promote investment, technology transfer. Africa, for instance, now, and I said it at our last drive time, has now created the largest single market on the planet. We now have the African Free Trade Agreement. And in terms of market and in terms of turnover, that is headed towards being the biggest on the planet. Sorry. So the more that we are able to see the connections with our brothers and sisters, and George Floyd has woken people up on the continent to what's happening, and there has been a greater connection. The political connection must also follow with the economics, and then I think we will truly be able to move forward.
Great. Well, I think you're absolutely right. And let's say that as we're out of Brexit, there will be opportunities for public sector contracts that we can work with African communities across the diaspora to access. They may have expertise, they may have capital that's not available to us, that would allow them access into the UK market and others by virtue of getting partnerships with us. And that's what we say to Black businesses, that actually the world now is your oyster. People would love to trade with Black British companies. I can tell you, on the continent and elsewhere and in the Caribbean, when they see Black professionals turn up, they're happy to do business. And the blockages that you're facing here in the UK evaporate like the morning mist when you land, you put your feet on the continent or back in the Caribbean to do business. So we're hoping that people are taking the message from this morning about collaboration. But I do think, and it was made mention of by yourself and Yvonne, Patricia, that a Black Chamber of Commerce, something that helps businesses think about how do we form consortia? So I'm not sure that people generally are that business literate, that they understand the legal aspects of how they can protect their own interests within a business consortia. But trust me, it's as easy as pie. People do it all the time. You're being allowed yourself to be intimidated out of growing your brand to make millions of pounds for you and to invest in our communities. And so you shouldn't be intimidated. And maybe a chamber of commerce and that kind of expertise that hands hold people into a consortium is the kind of thing that we might take forward. Adrian.
I was going to say that this is something that we can broker here also at Spire. We're keen to do so, along with Backsocks as well, broker these types of conversations and this type of learning and strategy, because what we're talking about here is strategy, understanding how to use the power of the small, the power of the medium, the power of the large in the right place at the right time. You know, we need to broker with all communities. If I'm honest, we need to broker. The world is our customer base, and so we need to be able to put forward a strength as a unit together, but we need to be able to broker with Chinese markets, with Indian markets, with the whole world, but we need to be able to stand together as a solid unity and know who we are. I have no problem with networking with other people. I'm not saying that, but we're networking or working with other people from other cultures as well, because there is strength in that as well. We have a strength in our diversity and our impact into our people groups and our diaspora. And that means that other people don't necessarily have that reach. They also consequently have a reach into their networks and people groups as well, which we can use together. Especially when you look at African history, we are people that trade. We are people that work with the continent. We are the centers of learning. We are the centers of trade and all of these things. If you look at what happened back in history, this is our culture. This is how we do it. And that was our strength. This is what created those great civilizations, those great kings and queens. You wouldn't have Mansa Musa if he didn't know how to trade with the rest of the world.
Exactly.
No, you wouldn't have all of these amazing people and civilizations if they didn't know how to collaborate, but at least, and also interact with the world that's around them. And that was by strategy, and that was by thinking. And that is in our DNA. And we need to come back and step up and start doing that and recognize who we are and what we were doing and remember who we are. And this is a form of it. We're just doing it in the modern day. We've always been doing this. We're doing it now, and we're going to do it brilliantly.
Brilliant. Wow, where's Lee? Lee gone? Yeah, no, if I just carry on from where you're, I'm so glad you opened up into that, because exactly, our parents came here with very little. They managed to own houses, you know, throwing partner. I'm seeing people sort of saying about partner. We know of whole villages and cities on the continent and the Caribbean built through partner. And it's called different names in different places, partner, susu, box, etc. So that communal sense of, you know, it's not just for me, it's for everyone else. The Ubuntu philosophy, which is deeply African. I am because who you are. You know, this is what we need to do. I don't know where has Lee gone, but anyway. So in terms of education, our mindset and change in education for wealth, as I said, we have been pioneering these discussions on a country level. We have done it in the Gambia. I was invited in December to speak about education, human investment, and national development on the backs of what we had done there when Lee, myself, and Viv were out there sparking education for wealth conversations with ministers, with entrepreneurs, etc. So, and also we just come back from Kampala. Backsocks also has a East African link where we hosted and wrote and launched Education for Wealth, leveraging the fourth industrial revolution in Uganda. That was something that we did together with our East African partners, with recommendations, strategic recommendations of how our education and technology needs to be repurposed to build up our communities for wealth. And we also have to redefine what we consider to be wealth. For instance, right now, for many people, health is wealth.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, it's not only just about the money. And you've talked about our cultural wealth, our social wealth. So I think us getting into the game at a leading area will transform the whole paradigm about what finance and wealth is supposed to be. So Lee, are you back?
We are back indeed, and you know that anytime we talk money, that the powers that be wish to interfere with our conversation, because they know we're coming to get what's rightfully ours, and therefore we have technical challenges this morning. Well, we did have two other guests, Paul Mohammed from Money Map and Nina. I'm not sure that they are. Nina, you're joining us straight from the line of her own business. And I don't know if you know Nina, you may or may not know, but Nina is a Legacy Lifetime Award winner. We were proud to give her an award in relation to the Legacy Awards. Hi to Marlo Morris, the creator of the Legacy Awards. And her journey began into hair. And I don't mean she went on a safari into hair. She started her hair business at the age of 15. And by the age of 24, she, along with her business partner, Audrey Booth, had their own salon. Although I'm sure she had some salmon on the way. Platinum Hair was born in 2000s. And it really continues to go to strength to strength. She's often found on Facebook championing social injustice and giving her interesting and sometimes comical perspectives on the world. So Nina Graywood, welcome to Lee Jasper's Drive Time. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks very much. Good morning, Lee. It's good to be here.
How's business? You must be finding it an incredibly challenging time over the. I'll
be honest with you. When the whole lockdown thing happened, it was a shock to our system, and it's been incredibly challenging. But I'll be honest, I'm actually starting to enjoy it. I've never not been in work for this long ever. So it's given me time to reflect, learn, speak to people that I don't normally speak to, find out about myself. It hasn't been that bad, to be fair.
Wow. You know what? I find so many people who are saying, yes, it has been tough, but actually I'm finding out new things about myself. I have more time to reflect and consider. And some people are making hay while the sun doesn't shine. That's certainly a refreshing response. Well, we've got other guests with us who I'm about to bring in, and our other guest is from Nottingham, a place I know well, Delroy Brown, who's I've just known him for years. He's represented the voluntary sector in Nottingham for years. He's worked with the Black voluntary sector on trying to progress and develop African heritage and develop a whole range of Black initiatives, ranging from homelessness to the Caribou unit to the Notting Hill Carnival. He was on the board of the directors for a local college of further education for 13 long years, and he continued providing training and education to young Black people and others throughout the 90s, such as the Nottingham Black Initiative, an organisation I've spoken at many times. He's currently the chair of ACNA, Afro Centre, which is a community organisation that has established since 1978. Delroy, my old friend, how you be?
How are you? Long time.
Yeah, too long already. Too long.
Listening to very interesting conversation. And to be honest with you, even today, listening to you, what I'm really hungry for, like everybody else, is actually stepping out of that vacuum where we're working by ourselves, right? One of the things, my concern has been a major concern, is you can see the landscape changing the landscape has changed where, if you think about it, we've had black organisations up and down the country. Go to any city in Nottingham, go to any city in England, go to any city, a major city or town, you'll see a black African Caribbean association. Those organisations have now been lost because obviously the funding has been cut, and we had no answer to how we kept those business going or those associations going. Now, if we look at the infrastructure, right, we actually have infrastructure that we don't recognise. We have black associations, black community organisations up and down the country, but we've never seen the purpose of them and never seen the use of them. And I think that's one of the, if we're looking at a black framework, right, we should be looking at how we begin to connect with these organisations up and down the country, because they are a source of information. And they are like a lighthouse within each city that you can go to.
Well, Paul, Delroy didn't mince words with the introduction, just straight jump right into.
Well, I mean, I think the time is right now.
Exactly.
Time is now for us to begin to talk about that.
It's not a criticism at all, sir.
No.
I value your candor and your desire to cut straight to the point. And you're right. It's our lack of cooperation that is our major weakness as a community.
How do we change that?
How do we change that? Well, we've got to build trust and competence in equal measure. Competence so that people have confidence about entering to, if you were to get into a partnership, Nina, with, 10 other hairdressers, as was mentioned by Adrian early on, into a consultant, you'd need to have confidence that your business interests were protected legally and lawfully. And so we need to build that legal competence, but we also need to trust each other. Other communities, like the Asian community, every other community, have no problem getting into business relationships. We seem to think it's a marriage, and we have to do all sorts of checks and balances before we do that. So I think it is about building trust.
Can I say something on that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I say something on that? I think with us as a community, I think it's a case that we're scared of failure. I think with other cultures, they've accepted the fact that you can actually fail. So you can start a business and it not work. And then you get up and then you start something else. And that's what they do. But I think with us as a culture, we're so scared of failure that we don't even try. And that I find that really, really frustrating about us. We're frightened of failure. And failure is part of success.
I'm loving you.
It's not a bad thing.
I totally agree with what you're saying.
I'm loving your energy, Nina. Adrian.
I totally agree with what you're saying, Nina. I think it's a brilliant point. That is what stops people applying for some of the things that are out there. They're afraid of being too small or not having enough expertise to do what needs to be delivered. They're afraid of not understanding, and so they don't even go and ask. We need to do this. I think that the way forward is to do it on purpose, and that's how you partner it. You have to do it on purpose. You have to set a goal, and you have to go with it. And I think the hair care is a very good example. If we think how many Asian businesses out there own and sell our products that we're using, and they're doing that together. And we do know that there are black businesses that do the same thing, but are they working together? If we're working together, what can we do? And I agree with you. We have to get over the fear of failure, and we have to use our courage. That's what we need. We need courage to just step up and face forward. And courage is something you have to do in the face of all your fears, and you will see the benefits of doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, Delroy from Nottingham.
As you do know, the dynamics of the argument is quite funny, really, because we've all been here before. I wasn't born in this country, but I came to this country in 1963. I literally grew up in this country, right? And I know these people as I know myself. And there are barriers that actually has been put in place that we don't recognize that actually stops small business growing. You and I know, right, that there's been business that has been delivered. I mean, for example, I'll give you an example. The community organization that I run, right? there are other community organisations within the city that that's having the biggest association is like dance promotion, right? You have small guys and women promoting a dance. They get a DJ from Jamaica. They come over there. They hold a party. And one of the biggest problems you have is the police basically stop you saying you can't actually have a party because it poses a thing. And you know that is not necessarily that, but it's an interference that stops you growing. The other thing as well is this, that we have got things already in place. I'll give you an example, right? The carnival. As an infrastructure, up and down the country, there is a black carnival up and down the country. We have an industry, and we don't recognize it's an industry. We don't come together as one group to basically say, guess what? We've got a national infrastructure up and down the country. How do we coordinate this? How do we work this together? Even Nottingham Carnival itself, without Virgin, couldn't bloody well survive. And we're going to say, well, what is our problem? Right? Jeremy, what his bloody name is? Sorry. The jerk seasoning. He created jerk bloody rice, right? No, ask yourself the question: why is there not a jerk association, a black jerk association that protects the industry and allows it to grow, so that we can say you can come in, you can't come in because you are not a proper provider or developer of jerk. Anybody can come in, and you know what? I can't remember his name. Jeremy, what is it? He said the guy that invented jerk is a genius.
Jamie Oliver. That's
his bloody name. The guy that actually invented jerk is genius. And I thought, what an insult! You have a whole culture there that's created it. He then jumped on it and got treated correctly. But why did we not protect the industry? Why haven't we set up an association to protect the industry? And that's where and those are the things that we need to put together to say this is the macro infrastructure that we need to have. We need to have a coordinating group that basically is set up to begin to actually drive and develop and construct.
Well, you know what? I'm going to push back on that to a certain extent, because I think some of these wounds, as Nina said, are self-inflicted. That yes, that there are barriers that are out there, but there's much better we can do in unity than we can do individually. And we can either choose to be individual victims of a system that is never going to be that helpful to us, or we can be collective collaborators and raise all the ships up equally to a higher level. So I hear what you're saying, but the program is Lee Jasper's Drive Time, Dale, and we're going to go on for news you can use. And what we want to do is point the way forward out of this crisis to say that the economic impacts here are going to be so severe. It's going to call for a radical change in the way that we do things. Okay. That's the challenge that we're putting out there today. We're not being joined by Paul Mohammed from Money Mob. Money Mob is a organization that targets black businesses, and what it does, it uses its network to encourage all of its members to buy from that black business today. He's having technical challenges getting online, but I think it's a concept that is worth looking at in relation to how do we support black businesses that are going through some of these incredibly difficult times. And let me say, as a member of Black Talks myself, in Lambeth, we have a thing called the Lambeth School Patrol. Just people being out and the kids are coming home from school and they're talking to them and keeping them safe and giving them positive affirmation and signposting them to great projects. You know, we're funded by the businesses in Brixton, and it's black businesses that, you know, supported our application to make that happen. What that means is we're independent. We get some money from the public first in terms of GoFundMe, and we get some money from black businesses. We don't need any money from anywhere else in order to do what we're doing. So when we begin to promote our black businesses, Tom Thompson's a case in point, because I know, and nobody knows, the extent to which she's funding organizations and initiatives and so on and so forth in the wider community. And we all know businesses like that. I'm sure Nina does exactly the same. But to make black businesses thrive is to give additional support to the black organizations who are too dependent on state aid. And when that state aid gets chopped, the service drops. Nina, talk to me, sister.
Can I say something? Can I speak? Right, sorry guys, I have to say this. So my thing is, I totally understand where you're coming from, Lee. But I almost see us as a culture, we're like the little kids in the playground and we're begging to play with the other kids. It's like, please let me play, please let me play. They don't want to play with us. So rather than keep begging to play with them, let's go and play our own game. Because we're more than able to play our own game. We're more than able to get together. We've got lawyers, we've got doctors, we've got architects, we've got all kinds of people in our community that we don't need to go anywhere else. And we've got enough money in our community. We spend trillions as a Black community elsewhere, but we don't spend it in our community. And that brings me to the point that on the 7th of July, we've started a thing. We've started this organization called Our Penny Power. And basically what we're doing, we're asking people on the 7th of July not to spend any money unless it's in a Black business. Now, people are taking this and they're saying that we're being racist. We never ask people to not spend money in a white business. We just ask them to spend money in a Black business. That's the difference. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to get Black businesses supported by Black people. The local West Indian shop relies on Black clientele. It may have, you know, clientele of other races, but its core clientele are Black. And we need to support them. Rather than going to Kentucky or McDonald's, we need to go to Mr. Jerky's or wherever it is. But we need to support our Black businesses, because if we don't support them, they're not going to thrive. And we don't have to keep going to the government for handouts, because we're more than capable of doing it ourselves.
I couldn't agree with you more, Nina. Yeah. You are my sister in soul. There's so much that we can do for ourselves. And the psychology that you talk about is absolutely right. Because I know Black businesses who invest and put a white manager in place, and they employ all white staff in a white area, and they're making fabulous money. And they're using that money to go and invest in Black communities and support their organizations. So you have to be creative. If the point is to make money to invest in your community, then don't cut yourself off. Have that great imagination. I think that scheme on the 7th of July that you spoke about, the penny scheme, is absolutely brilliant. And it's a bit like the money mob solution that we talked about before. Delroy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I saw this young lady on a video about talking about the same very thing, right? About the 7th of July. And I've taken it because I'm definitely the 7th of July. I'm not spending no money with anybody else apart from my own. But let us say, we actually went through this thing with South Africa, right? And we were successful in actually turning around South Africa. And I think that we can do the same thing too. Because I mean, I think that if we think about it, I would like to say it, right? I think the idea as the 7th of July is very good, but why can't we do this every second Friday and Saturday in the month, right? So that it's a manageable thing that it's a very conscious thing that we can do, to say every second Friday and Saturday in the month, we only spend with a Black business, right? That means that it is by the majority of us. So I'm thinking to build on the 7th of July, but actually make it a regular monthly thing, where we only spend with our own community every second Friday and Saturday in the month. And I think that is where we need to go until we can begin to develop the confidence and the habit, because we do not have the habit of consciously spending with our own. And we need to develop that habit, right? You know, they say if you do things 24 times, right, it becomes a habit. We've been doing this in a long time and we've not developed the habit yet. And we need to begin to develop the habit where we consciously look out for our own and spend with our own.
Well, look, I think that it's a generational thing, if I may say so, as a man of a certain age, because I'm impressed. I think when I talk to young people, they don't have any of these hang-ups. They want to chop that money. They want to get into the platforms. They want to work together. They're making their collaborations. So in some senses, that kind of culture is dying out. But you're right. The more that we can consolidate our economic base, the greater business successes we're likely to have there out in the world. How do you find it, Nina? Do you find that Black people are supporting your business?
I'm a Black business, so yeah, without Black people, I wouldn't survive. We do Black hair, so yeah, Black people do support my business. However, what I do find when it comes to things like hair products, they won't buy hair products from me. They would rather go to Pack or Beauty Queens or whatever, because they're under the assumption that those shops will be cheaper, which isn't true. But yeah, we've got to get out that mindset that, you know, the Asian shop is going to be cheaper, because that's not necessarily the case. And even if it is the case, it's because the Asian shops can buy in bulk. We can't buy in the bulk that they do. So you've got to spend a little bit more in order for it to get better.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And that's it. We've got to start from somewhere.
No, we're in agreement there. I happily pay 10 pence more or whatever it is if I knew that was a business that was supporting my community. And if I see young people in there buying,
the problem is, Lee. The problem is, sorry to interrupt you. There's very few people that think like that.
Well,
there's very few people that think like that. Most people are not going to say, do you know what? I'm not going to go to this place because I'd rather support my own. They're going to go to where it's cheaper, and that's the fact. You could be selling planting, I don't know, 2 for £1. But if someone's selling it 3 for £1, they're not going to support you, Lee. They're going to the 3 for £1 shop. And that's just the way it is. We need to stop being like that. Do you know what I mean? We need to think before we spend.
Absolutely. Adrian?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that we are living in this world where all of these things are happening at the same time. But we need to assign value to ourselves, respect ourselves, and assign value, and then respect that, and then go and respect that business. I totally agree. Especially if, as we're talking about under COVID, after COVID or post-COVID, when things might get financially hard, people are going to be looking at that bottom line, and where we need to look at strategy again together. As I said before, it is possible for a number of businesses to buy together so that we can have cheaper products. We can get it cheaper. You buying on your own is always going to be more expensive. I know it's a bit of a wishful thinking, but we can buy together, we can collaborate together, and we can assign value to each other and respect to each other. Things are happening at the same time. People are looking at their bottom line, looking at their bills and all of those things at the same time. Of some people being laid off, some people are being furloughed, and so yes, finance is a concern. At the same time, there are individuals which are definitely respecting the fact that this is a black business and we need to support, and we need to change our culture by respecting ourselves and loving ourselves and supporting ourselves. But at the same time, we need to be strategic in helping our organizations and helping our brothers and sisters to see a way forward. So we can work together to make it easier for them, but at the same time, everything's happening. So I appreciate
I love the thought that we can assign value to ourselves. I think I might print that on my T-shirt, if I may, Adrian.
Absolutely.
Can I just say a few words before Paul comes in?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. This mindset change that we're talking about, this is education.
Exactly right.
This is about education. Right now, we're running a historic national survey, post-lockdown survey of what education needs to look like for our children. We're asking black parents, we're asking black carers, we're asking black educators, we're asking black specialist support staff in our schools. This whole thing about financial literacy. I mean, what everybody's talking about, why things are cheaper, is economies of scale.
Exactly.
That is a business concept, economies of scale. So if we are able to teach financial education, we have, for instance, Julian Hall, who's from Ultra Education, who's been running business education in schools for small children up and down the country to get the mindset going about how we assign value to what our worth is and how we sell it. Our survey, if you take our survey, you will see it's talking about financial education that we will need coming out of this lockdown. So our children understand about money and how money is made and how we invest together and wealth. It's about the wealth mind. And I own it for myself. You know, we were taught you go to school, you get good grades, you get a job. That's not the case now. That is not the case. There has to be something extra. We have to have much more of a risk, leaning into risk and finding ways to create wealth, not to become another slave, a wage slave, basically. We have to find ways to create money for ourselves, this entrepreneurial hustle. Yeah, which why many of our young people are on the street doing what they're doing is because they've been cut out of normal entrepreneurial or employment opportunities. And I see many of the most radical people that I'm talking to right now are entrepreneurs on the African continent, from the Caribbean and here, because it is about the bottom line at all levels. And they realize we have to change the mindset. So
Abdullah.
I think as educators, we have to come together to promote that.
Well, if I may introduce our good friend, Paul Mohammed from Money Hub, who's overcome his technical difficulties to join us live from the streets of London. Just a quick introduction. Money Mob is a black community movement that provides support, knowledge.
Can I just say something? Can I say something about when you said about adding value to yourself?
Can I just introduce him first? Because he's been so delayed in getting with us that I want to make sure people know who he is, and then you can come in, Nina, and then I'll come to Paul. But he's a Buy Black community movement that supports black businesses, dedicated to helping them grow and using the resources of our community to focus on that. It was created in 2016, and funny enough, Nina, Paul watched the program on a soapbox video which showed a black hairdresser being squeezed out by a consortium of another ethnic group who were conspiring to undermine her businesses. And it is a Money Mob idea, came from that, was inspired by that, and it entails a promotion through social media to galvanize the community to attend at that time and just spend a minimum of £10 with that businesses, which I love. So business money customers are encouraged to join it, support it. They get a Money Mob loyalty card scheme. Nina, you're going to have to join this card scheme so you can give it to your customers. Paul himself has travelled right around the world, and he sees it as his mission to support black economies. And it's a mission that is gathering pace in the light of the death of George Floyd and the lives of the Black Lives Matter movement in Africa, the Caribbean, Europe, absolutely anywhere. In his mission, he was joined by he's joined by Barbara Chandler and Glenys Russell, who co-host their weekly Money Mob Black Business radio talk show on UJR Talk Radio, and it's also now a Zoom weekly podcast. So we'll want to promote and give people that. And you can follow Money Mob on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, at Money Mob 101. After that, then Paul, we're so delighted you could join us.
Oh, good. Thank you very, very much, Lee. And you know, the one beautiful thing about supporting black businesses is that you know, you can actually go to a black business, especially when you're going through technical difficulties, and set up there. So you know, I'm very, very, very grateful, thankful, and I'm grateful for being invited. And yes, thank you very much for the introduction. So yeah. Money Mob essentially is a crowdfunding, crowd purchase movement that uses group economics to support black businesses. We use, as Leah said, the use of group economics, which we think is vital in regards to actually, you know, getting people to have awareness. So what tends to happen with the actual Money Mob itself, which started in 2016, is that we will actually go to a business and usually by referrals, and if the business is per se go and passes the criteria, we then cash mob that business or money mob that business, which is essentially you know, on a place, a day and time, we actually go and as a group and mob that business. Now it could be 10 people, it could be 110 people. Each person who is a part of that money mob has to spend £10 per person with that business, and in that way, we are given an injection of cash. But also, because of the use of social media, because of the use of radio, TV, we also are able to promote that business as well. Promotion is a very, very vital tool in regard to supporting businesses, because, you know, it's like having a rare stone. If the stone is on the bottom of the sea and no one knows about it, then no one's going to go and get it. So it's important for us to to make sure that we market that business, especially within the area. You find that a lot of people in the area itself, they may be in that vicinity, and they are, they've been living there for years and don't know that there's an actual that business here serving the community. So that's what we do, and that's the thing that kind of gave us our claim to fame. But as you said in the start, Lee, we have a weekly. Well, we had a weekly radio program called the Money Mob Black Business Radio Talk Show that really highlighted and interviewed leaders in business, and that was going for the last 2 years. We've kind of moved from radio now. We're podcasting, and that's been going very, very well. So essentially, that's basically our movement in a nutshell. And again, it's about starting from grassroots, because that's where it is. We are. I think there's roughly around anything between 2.5 and 3 million people, black people in this country. The Voice, I think in 2014, said that we were in proximity of 300 billion to the UK economy, and we have a net kind of spend of let's say 30 billion, but we only spend 2% within our community. That is dangerous, because it means that it doesn't give us a leverage. It means that that a lot of the maladies that are affecting the community, such as unemployment, crime, that sense of hopelessness, as well as other maladies, are effects because, as I said, we do not have a financial base. I think I managed to get a little bit of what Patricia was saying in regard and the panel in regards to setting up things like a chamber of commerce and what have you. And these things have been set up within other communities. And I have to be very, very honest. Business is war. You build your business and you have to protect your business. And I take the views that what if you any community that actually does not have a financial base, you don't have a base to actually work for, you are a consumer community, then you are going to be ripe for trouble. I mean, let me just take a for instance, Lewisham. Lewisham has a population of, say, 300,000 people, of which 41% of those people are, quote unquote, from the ethnic minority. Of that, about 25% are, Black and African Caribbean. So if we say so that's usually that comes up to roughly around 80 to 90,000 people. Now, if we look at an average, let's say, cut that in half and say 40,000 of those people are working, they earn on average £1,000 a month. You're talking about something like 40 million pounds in that we actually have in our community, of which if we just only spend 2%, that's £800,000. That's not enough to keep a community going. That's not enough to actually to do anything that is going to be meaningful. And one of the things that I love about what is actually happening in regards to movements that's happening recently is that now you have young people who are now talking about economics. We've got a young brother who he's a recording artist, and he's looking to to launch something called the Black Pound Day, which is going to be happening next week on the 27th. There's a blackout day. So now what's happening is that the general community are now thinking, my goodness, and that's really one of the reasons I believe why there's now movements in regards to reform, because finances in this country, they look at the money. They look at, you know, they're not even looking in regards to my generation, our generation. They're looking at the younger generation. They're looking at those possible consumers, and if those possible consumers are now moving away and now supporting themselves, that means whoever has been actually being the ones that they have been consuming their products, those are the ones that are going to suffer. And that's the reason why I believe there's lots of talking about reform and change, talking about statues and what have you, because people are now realizing that now the young are now waking up, and just as well marching in regards to their rights, they're now also now talking about marching and supporting their own businesses. So that's, to me, is really, really vital, important. And as I said, it's a small thing, but it's a part of a broader plan, which is about making sure that we, as I said, have a wraparound culture towards consumer spending, and then also making sure that we are part of now creating a part.
Okay, well, I'm gonna
create something that's also a part of the chain.
I gotta pause you there because time is running out. And but
yes, I hear you.
I think you make some excellent points, and let's be clear about this. The younger generation are just coming at it from a totally different perspective, and I applaud what they're doing. The 7th of July, buy black. Delroy's idea about every second Friday and a focus on investing in our communities. Nina's comments, everybody's comments on the panel are all focused in the direction of saying that we've got to build a black economy. Nina, you were gagging to get in just before I spoke and let Paul in. What do you have to say? Nina, you can't hear me. You can't hear me.
Basically, it was in relation to what Patricia said about respecting self. I think Adrian said it as well, that it's very important. Sorry?
Nothing, carry on.
Oh, sorry. I think it's very important that that we respect self, but it's very important that we respect each other. And that's what I find that we lack a little bit, especially when it comes to my business. I find it quite insulting, and it's down to education, but I find it very insulting that a black woman will come at me as another black woman wearing Balenciaga trainers and a Louis Vuitton handbag and jumping out of a £40,000 BMW, but then you're going to tell me as a black woman that I'm too expensive. So it's all well and good that we respect self, but we have to respect each other as well, because you're not going to work for a minimum wage, but you expect me to. I can only function, I can only progress on the money that you give me because I'm a black business, but you're only going to pay me what you think I'm worth. But as another black person, you don't mind spending £1,000 on a pair of canvas trainers. It makes no sense. So we have to change our mindset.
Absolutely. I think you make an important point, isn't it? And it's about the kind of mental slavery that we get ourselves into. And we tend to abuse, everybody tends to abuse those they love the most. Let's put it in a generous way. When you feel powerlessness, you strike out at people like you rather than the people who've got power, because your hand can't reach there. You feel powerless to them. But, assigning value to yourself means I now assign value to you. And if that means I've got to pay you a little bit more so that you can employ my sons and daughters to work in your business, then I think that's an investment worth making. And we've got to look past this short term. Yes, everybody's tight for money, right? But are we so tight for money that we're going to cancel the future of the next generation? I don't know. Adrian.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think knowledge and understanding of self and respect for self is very, very important in this conversation. A great writer called Miles Monroe says, if you don't know what something is, you will abuse it, which is abnormally use that thing. But once you understand the value and the meaning of something that is there, you can use it to its correct potential. That includes ourselves, and that includes our lives, and that's respecting each other. So once you assign value to yourself, and you can love yourself and love your people and love everybody else, you can use it in its correct format, use people in the right way, and you do not abuse them, as the words that you picked up.
Charmaine Henry from the Black Cultural Black History Project, Black History Studies Group. I hope you're well, Charmaine. He's furiously tweeting in support of us. They're saying to you, Paul, oh, we've lost him again. Got a message for Paul there from Charmaine telling him to get on LinkedIn. Delroy, I'm going to come to you. Just before that, the Black voluntary sector. I remember when Nottingham had the best funded Black voluntary sector in the United Kingdom. I came down there in the early 80s when the Black voluntary sector down there was a £3.2 million a year network. But we came from Moss Side, and Manchester was agog at how you'd managed to secure that. Of course, back in Nottingham, for people who don't know, the 1958 race riots, the community was organised in a way that other communities weren't, and they managed to secure that. But out of this COVID crisis, the Black voluntary sector is going to come out in very weakened state, and it was weakened anyway. Why is it that, just as Adrian gave advice to Nina about, why don't black hairdressers come together and buy their products in wholesale, why is it that the Black voluntary sector hasn't come together and centralised its admin function, decided to, employ black cleaners to clean all of their offices, get a complete HR firm to handle their employment relations with their employees? There's lots that the sector itself could do to support itself, and will have to do, just as we're asking businesses to form consortiums. The Black voluntary sector is going to have to do the same thing if it's to survive.
Major frustration. Major frustration on my from my part, in terms of recognizing that what you're saying, Lee, is very true. I think the voluntary sector, if you look at in Nottingham, if you look at it, it's a generational thing in terms of there has been organisation that's been around for 40 odd years, which is like my organisation, and they have up and coming organisation. But one of the things you have got as well is competing for funds, right? And the ever decreasing pot of funds means that instead of people working together, people basically go off and put the application in and basically apply for funds and work for funds and look to set an organisation that replaces the organisation before, which I don't have a problem with, because in essence it is about generational things, and younger generation have different needs. But at the same time, there is an advantage in working together, and I agree with you 100%. One of my biggest frustrations is the fact that we don't talk. What we do have now is we have a lot of continental African groups who are now emerging, becoming more confident, and instead of working together, they work against each other. And also there is this stupid divide as well between Caribbean and African, which is stupidness, right? So, but there is a lot of division, right? And I think we are the problem, not white people, because we should see it and recognize that this is what we need to do in order to become stronger, right? The black voluntary sector has diminished over the years, and that's with people dying and people moving on, right? And the issue is that the justification for black people actually having needs has moved on as well, because the actual the panorama in terms of how people see the black community has moved on as well. There isn't the ghetto of Hyson Green as there used to be, Hyson Green flats, and people have been moved out into houses and been gentrified to a certain extent. So we don't see the apparent poverty that still exists. And also, if everything is dependent on funding from the city council or from the lottery, then in essence, you're not in control of your own future, because you apply for funding and it doesn't happen. So therefore, you then lose interest. We need to go back to the point where we are self-funded.
You're right about that. Self-funding is the way, and Money Mob and businesses like Nina's can lead us the way. Patricia.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't expect to say. This whole point about coming together is work. And in terms of, I'd like to pick up what Nina said about the fear of failure and the fear of success. I think these are two polar opposites which are joined that we need to address. So, for instance, when we are doing this this follow-up webinar, it's because we recognize that it's not just enough that there are access to information here and there. Our community needs support. So myself and Adrian through BlackRock, we're putting ourselves out there in service leadership. Those of us who know more and who have more, we're here to give more. So that's what we're doing. We're talking about service leadership to kickstart this coming together. So for instance, we're also looking about a partnership database, helping people to put together partner information forms so that they can join a partnership database and get to know each other so that they can network and do consortia biz together. The other point I wanted to make, big charities and organizations. I'm a member of one of the biggest educational charities, an international one with millions of turnover. They have a consultancy arm and their job is just to write bids. That's all they do, okay? So they're funded full-time just to write bids. And the success rate of an organization that are just funded to write bids, 1 in 3. 1 in 3. So when we write one bid and we're rejecting, we say, oh no, I've given up. No, I'm talking about white people writing to access their funds. They are failing too. So we have to bounce back. We have to have that resilience to keep going. I can't tell you how many bids that I've written that have failed. You know, it's just like when we say, you know, when we've got here now, we've got our millions of turnover, we can talk now. But the failure is on the road to success. It builds a resilience, and it means, as Adrian said, you have to be in it to win it. And as Nina said, we have, you know, it is part of the mindset of being in a business, and it can fail, and then we have to bounce back. One of the most successful business entrepreneurs is on the continent is Nigerian Tony Elumelu, who's putting his money where his mouth is. He talks about a version of Afri-capitalism. We may or may not agree with it from a political point of view, but the point is he has dedicated himself and his infrastructure to raise up invest 10 million each year over 10 years to raise up millions of businesses. I attended in Nigeria a year and a half ago where he sponsored 5,000 entrepreneurs to come in a meeting and meet with presidents, you know, do pitches in front of everybody and actually fund and mentor those businesses. They do a 12-week mentoring program and then they give money. And that's in Nigeria. That's what they're doing on the continent, the largest, you know, most populous African country on the continent. So from going to different parts of Africa, I have seen how people are working together. There is a lot of poverty, but I've seen African chambers of commerce. I've met with ministers. So I see that we can work together. What we're talking about, we are in a society that is basically not ours. And this is why we're having all the problems that we have. And so one of the key things we have to do is to create organizations of leadership. And then we deal with other communities from a basis of strength.
Sorry.
That is the point. And this is why we need to build consortia. And it is a matter of education, educating the minds of our children to support businesses. For instance, we're running a fire prep boot camp right now at the same time, teaching English, math, science, coding, etc. It's running right now. I've trained up my son. He's delivering right now. Yeah? It's about legacy building, institutional building. You know, these are we have to have that long-term thinking. And coming out of lockdown, the kind of economic problems that are going to be hit us is going to be devastating. Absolutely devastating. So unless we are beginning to form these organizations now, using the tech, you know, the fact that we've been forced to go online, the fact that children have been forced to go home and school, this is a chance for parents to take back their power.
Yes.
Because we are the first educators. You see, not just looking at the negative thing, but, you know, looking at how we need to do that. So what we've got at the bottom of our thing coming across again is about the bit.ly Money Access Aspire. The 2 webinars following on from this Show Me the Money thing, that we're going to actually support organizations who sign up to this to access the tenders, to access the procurement, to access the loans that are there. You know, whatever help and tips that we've got, and we'll bring other people on board that we can give you to help you, but at the same time, it's given in the mindset of unity and coming together. Hence, we will have the partnership database. And it's running across the bottom, so please sign up.
Okay, well, you've got the information there across the bottom of your screens. If you're interested in getting the technical detail to accessing some of these support loans, and also getting in touch with Aspire and Black Sox about how we will do more work in guiding you in forming consortiums, that is the place to start. Note the address, get yourself signed up, because that will be filled up very quickly after today. Well, look, it's 11:45 and we're finishing in 15 minutes. I'm going to ask each of you for your concluding remarks. Just one additional thing, I think, before we go. All of these big businesses are willing to pay big money to apologise for slavery and reparations, or so I'm led to believe. Lloyds Bank, Bank of England, WEG Green, and I know that there are more like Unilever and other companies that have their roots in plantation slavery are going to provide us with big money. I would hope that some of this money is going to go towards business startups, because that would be the most sensible investment, and education would be 2 of the most sensible investments for this money. But as we bring the boat into the harbour, as we come into the final few minutes of this, if I could ask each of you to give me your concluding and summary remarks. I'm going to start with Paul first, because he challenges meant he got here late, so he's had less bites of the cherry, as it were. But we're going to have you back, Paul, when we sort out your technical details, so that we can have a proper conversation. But go ahead, give us your 5-minute concluding remarks in relation to what you've heard today.
Well, I think that again, we have to go from a position of strength. I think that yes, there are wonderful words and symbols that are coming from companies that have been benefited billions and trillions in regards to our kidnap, mass murder and enslavement. But I'll wait until I actually see something concrete done in regards to that. In the meanwhile, it's about us being able to take charge as much as we can in regards to our own and our children's future. As I said, when I was discussing, just one borough, that particular borough has this, is the size of a country like Barbados. And the population, the black population in the borough of Luton is almost the size of a country like Grenada, and they're fully functioning. They have airports, they have factories, they have work, and we have to now again, look at the mindset that whatever we can do, we must do. Our children will never forgive us if we don't now, use the time, as Patricia said, lockdown is that time where, as I said, there was a lot of lack of distractions, so that we use the time to actually get to know about ourselves, being able to educate ourselves, grow food for ourselves, and also try to find out about what we need to do. And as I said, there's a lot of opportunities that are out there. There are brothers and sisters, and I know you've discussed it on the continent, that are waiting for us to do business with them. And the same thing over here. But again, we have to, as I said, this is not going to be a quick fix. I know it took 450 years to put us into this situation. It's going to take time for us to actually, take our time. I mean, it's going to take time for us to actually get to where we need to get to. But as I said, it is, it is something that we have to do before we're forced to do it. You know what I mean? So, and so I just think that, more than anything else, is about, whatever we can do talk to mum, talk to dad about, as a son or a daughter in regards to, how we can look to spend for each other, and not only just having, just a list of, businesses. We've got to take people to the water and hopefully help them to drink from, that the water of, liberation. And there ends my my 5 minutes.
Drink the water of liberation, not the Kool-Aid. Not the Kool-Aid of the government or the government propaganda. Okay. I'm going to move on now to Delroy, if you kindly give us your concluding remarks. Thank you, Paul.
Lee, this conversation has been inspiring, and I think we need to give this topic more oxygen, because it's such an important part of our development. We have reached a threshold where I think people are now accepting that this coming together is where we need to be and what we need to do. What is missing is knowledge about ourselves, our history, and knowledge about what we can do. And I'm hoping that what we can do is actually network. We need money, but we need to know who we need to talk to, who we need to be connected with. And I think that is one of the major things that we need to basically go away and work on. And that is developing our local network, our regional network, and our national network, so that we can actually see who the connecting people are and the connecting organizations are. So I look forward to, I'm hoping I can encourage you to have another one in 2 months' time or something like that. But I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Delroy. You can be absolutely bet your bottom dollar.
And invite me back as well.
I will do both, because we understand the importance of a developing black economy, and we're going to give it the proper attention it deserves. So you can rest assured on that. And thank you for your contributions. Adrian, if I may now come to you for your final words.
Sure, my final words, I'll be really concise. I just want to say that I'm excited about the time we've got ahead. We are the people of hope. We are the people of creativity. We are the people of inspiration. And we can do that with excellence. We've always done that. It's in our DNA. We are here, Patricia, myself, Black Stocks, everybody here to help inspire and encourage people to do so. And we can put this into practice with reality, not just words, but with actual reality and things that can, the things that we can do. Please remember that the webinar, we're going to be giving away lots of good information, free information, strategy. It's happening on the July the 10th and July the 17th between 6:30 and 8 p.m. The link is on the bottom of the screen as well. Obviously, you can reach out to myself at Adrian Helmer-Bid and Black Stocks. But I just want to encourage everybody. We have power, just like we have black power. We have black sense, we have black intelligence, we have black creativity. We can put that together, network it together, and we can do what we've always done, which is more than survive. We are the future. We can do this.
We are the future. We can do this. Positive words as we thank Adrian for his contribution. And Patricia, as you bring the boat into the harbour and we wind up this show, give us your final few minutes. You're on mute, Patricia, I think, Don.
Sorry, I don't need to say very much. We just need to get together and get the money. We need to get together and get the money.
Okay.
And that's why I'd just like you to sign up for our webinar. Yvonne Thompson has kindly, said that also she'll be putting forward the way that she had 500 people on her webinar with the minister. The other ones that I was on, they had another 500. And all they offered was the information, no follow-up. We are different. We're actually offering follow-up in service leadership. And this is what Black Stocks is about. It's about asset-based community development, bringing together people like Paul Mohammed. I thank you so much, brother, for all that knowledge that you broke down there about how much we're actually collectively spending. Thank you. And Delroy for keeping going up in Nottingham, the black voluntary sector. As Adrian says, we've been here before. And with the young people, we are looking to the future. We have to do our bit. The young people will carry on. So let's just get the money and get together.
I'd like to thank all of my guests, Adrian, Patricia, Delroy, Paul Mohammed, and Nina, who's had to leave early, but we send her our best wishes for her and her business. And say goodbye to my panel. It's been absolutely another first-class show. I hope you're enjoying the broad range of topics that we're covering in this show. I know I certainly am, and on every single program, I'm learning an incredible amount. I hope that's true. Sign up for Aspire's seminar. You can find the details right up your screen now, taking place on the 10th and 17th of July. Let me tell you, you'll be charged at least £1,200 to £1,500 by a consultant to get onto this seminar. It's on your screens now. Sponsored by Black Socks, Black Men for Change, Hackney CVS. That's us. Patricia, Adrian, Black Socks, all these organizations providing you with your in order that you can get the access this knowledge. These organizations out there, the wider businesses, get this information all the time, and you don't. Now you can get access to it. So there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse. You turn up, you go on the seminar, you get the information, you join a Black organization or a network, and you start to recreate the future in the vision that we've explained and we've outlined here today. Next week, we're going to be doing a program on music. We're going to have like 7, 6, 5, I don't know how many, but we're going to have 4 or 5 DJs, promoters, people who are in the music business. We're going to be talking about Black Lives Matter. We're going to be talking about how the music industry is making a contribution to the Black communities. One of the biggest sections, other than hair and beauty, I would imagine, is the recreation and nighttime economy. So we're going to be looking at that as we unfold the program next week. Now, the week after that, my days, I'm going to have chief executives of white organizations on the show. That's right. They're going to meet with Lee Jasper. I don't know, I'm asking them, what is their response to the Black Lives Matter movement, and what is their intention in relation to responding to the issues that raised us as we go forward with the program. I'd like to thank my sponsors, Black Socks, 106, Section 106, and I'm delighted to say that on Section 106, which is a media production company house, that I'll be leading some Roger Cook type investigations into racism in wider society. I can promise you, we're going to be taking a panorama approach, but with a Black forensic focus and some fierce interrogation of the issues that face our community. So do look out for that. The Aspire Money Access Program, again, is below. If you want to contact Black Socks, www.blacksocks.com. That again will be on your screen. And I just wanted to say thank you to all our dedicated listeners. Listen, it's not about numbers to me. It's not about clickbait. You know, if I wanted to get numbers, then I could put on some trauma porn, you know, some salacious scandal bag gossip, and I'm sure my numbers would click over at a fantastic rate. I'm not interested in that. You know what I'm interested in? I'm interested in quality, not quantity. So the stuff that you're putting online, the fact that you stay every week, the fact that you're staying loyal to this channel, I hope to bring education and empowerment to our communities. That means more to me than numbers. So I want to thank you all who, over the last 8 weeks, have resolutely turned up almost every week to give us support. You know, we're talking about people like, who are we talking about? Let's give them people a shout out. Scotty Scott, Turley, Charmaine Henry, Avril Collar. I don't even know how to say that, so I'm not going to say it, but Avril, you are a big supporter, and we thank you for your support. Lestia, Marshall, Witter, the consultant Chameleon. She's just been fabulous on the program. Look at her posts. And we're looking at Daniel Pink from Lewisham, Yvonne Thompson, CBE, Look at the quality of people that we're getting on this program. Coelho, Abril Coelho. Thank you, Abril Coelho, for giving me that correct pronunciation. I'm only a poor boy from Manchester, so I murder the English language the best of times. Teresa Hatchett, thank you. Gwenton Slowly. Well, Gwenton, the favourite son of Lee Jasper. Trust me, love that boy like good food. And People's Leeds, anonymous, but we love you, People Leeds. And let's have a look down here. Nighty Night. Yes, we see you out there. Val Graham is out there supporting the thing. Hazel Jordan, we see you. And we could go on and go on. Maria Patterson, T Smooth. Listen, I ain't got time to thank you all. There's another 100 people on there, and so I can't thank you enough for supporting the Lee Jasper Drive Time channel. We'll be back next week with a brand new Lee Jasper Drive Time, focusing on music, getting those DJs in a corner. I'm going to tell you a little secret. Go to Vibes FM, the radio station, when Commander B is online, and you're going to hear a new tune from Asher Senator. He's the riding P for Smiley Culture way back in the day, and he's been making music ever since. He's got a new tune out. It's a banger. It's called We Ain't Having It. All about George Floyd, all about Black Lives Matter. It's exclusive to Vibes FM, so make sure you tune in and listen to that. My name's Lee Jasper. I'm going to go down to my allotment. The rain has been raining, but the sun has come out. I'm going to see how my babies are doing. So we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for being with us. Big shout out to Theo in the studio. We couldn't have done it without you. Take care till next week.
Hi, my name's Lee Jasper. This is Brixton, London, and you're watching Lee Jasper Drive Time.